And now for a Book Cellar update. Let's go to Susan Sedan.
1984.
Hello.
So, hello. So, tell me, what did you have to go through while writing the novel?
Well, like, while I was writing the novel, because it was really like a 3-year period. Like, my wife had just died, along with my sister, and I ended up having to move to this island called Jura. And, like, basically around that time, like, I was, I was in, I was diagnosed with tuberculosis. So basically, like, the writing aspect, like, I kept on going in and out of it. I believe. So so basically, like during those 3 years, I kind of brought little bits of myself into the writing. I presume, and like stuff from the past, like in some of my previous books and articles, and like some of the stuff like in my personal life. So I felt like the book was more the book altogether. It was kind of like a story of my own life.
Okay. Sorry to hear about your wife's passing, by the way. But did you have any personal experiences, if even your wife's passing, um, did you have any personal experiences that influenced any important writing decisions?
Well, yeah. Like when I was younger in like secondary school, my parents thought that my marks wouldn't get me into a good college, so but I ended up becoming an officer in the Imperial Police for Burma, which is kind of like my hometown, so to speak.
Oh, my father lived there.
Oh, bro.
Yes, he kept telling me stories about it.
Yeah.
Raised.
So like my experiences from being a police officer, I kind of put them into they sort of manifested into what the story calls the thought police. And
What is the thought police?
like basically they're kind of like the chief enforcers in Oceania. And what they do is that they arrest anybody who tries to think independently of what the government deems as like insult.
Basically, deviance.
Yeah.
Interesting. So so a lot of readers compare your book 1984 to Animal Farm. What does this book bring to the table that Animal Farm doesn't?
Uh, I so often get this. I so often get this type of response because that's what people best like think of me for.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of felt that Animal Farm, like it only talked about like the stuff that happened that led to the Russian Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
But like 1984, it was like a coming of age for that, like a sequel. And there, and like Animal Farm, it was kind of like a little skit
Mm-hmm.
that would bring you up to that point. And I believe like 1984, it kind of like brought you into this world or universe, like when Stalin was in charge of everything. And during that time, I kind of felt that like the socialist aspect of Russia, like it needed more so to be looked into for 1984. And that emphasis, it kind of drew out like all the Napoleon stuff and matured the book in some ways.
In what way does that? And in what way does that mature the book?
Well, Well, for starters, the main character isn't a pig. He's an actual person.
Okay.
And I don't know, like also, like it was more current with the times. Like a lot of people say that nationalism was one of the reasons that the war started. And in some ways, like, the book kind of emphasized on that kind of nationalism. So basically, it was more so World War II than World War II itself.
Interesting. Okay, so we've heard what the idea of or what Orwellian is. So, can you define what Orwellian is in your own words?
Well, for me, Orwellian is kind of like, it describes a sort of like society that I kind of established in the book. So like, basically there's a big brother that kind of gives power to this elitist group that makes up all the rules. And from there, there's a middle class that they work somewhat with that party, but they're not really associated with it. And then you have the rest of them, the proles, the proletariats. They're the really uneducated ones.
Okay. So after reading part 1 of your novel, I have to admit that I had some difficulties understanding doublethink. Can you please elaborate on it?
So doublethink, like, when I was thinking about it, it's kind of when two ideas, they're connected, but only by being the exact opposite of each other. Like, this, one of the slogans for Oceana is like, freedom is slavery, war, peace is war, strength, ignorance is strength, and each of them, they make sense in their own type of way. So like, ignorance is strength. Like, if you think about it, the people they give strength to the party by choosing to stay ignorant. Like, they don't educate themselves on what's actually going on. So that gives strength to the government and the society itself. Freedom is war. It's kind of a double entendre. And that, basically, freedom is slavery. Sorry. So basically, Big Brother, he tries to go out to make the people believe that they were slaves that were liberated by the revolution in the story. But in actuality, they're the ones that are really being enslaved right now. And peace is war. Like, basically, the war is the only way that the party can control the people, because with the threat of the war, it makes them become the heroes of this society, and people tend to follow that more.
Right. Okay. And in speaking of Big Brother, what do you think is the Big Brother in today's society?
Well, thinking about who Big Brother is in this world, you have to think about who Big Brother really is. So, Big Brother, because to me, I feel like there's practically the entire world is kind of like 1984 in some way. Because you can see Big Brother, he's this type of villain who's watching your every move. And all the while, you see really, really established governments like Russia and the US watching each other's every move. And basically, like you have like this really small group of people, in relatively, so to speak, and they control the entire mass of everybody in that like type of land. So and like every aspect is practically controlled by Big Brother if you really think about it. So, and to me, basically, the world today is practically like 1984.
Something to think about.
Yeah.
Well, that's all for today. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Orwell.
Get your copy of 1984 at your local bookstore today. This has been another Book Cellar update.